between fingers of mine that choose to write their story one step at a time on terms I decree.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 30 years old. At a young age, I witnessed the deaths of my parents. Their death in the vehicle accident left me without any relatives to care for me, therefore I was placed in an orphanage. Prior to my adoption, I remained there for around 5 years. My life took a turn for the better after I learned that my adopted parents were billionaires. They chose to keep my adoption a secret because they didn't want it to be a major scandal. When they accomplish nice deeds, they would rather not draw attention to themselves. My adoptive parents decided to take a business trip throughout Europe after I was all grown up and on my own. My now ex-husband, Larry, and I met around that time. We had an instant connection when we met in university. Larry became more appealing to me after we had a few discussions. He was an upbeat, kind guy who put me at ease. Our casual dates quickly blossomed into something more substantial. We seemed to have found the ideal partner, but there was one hitch. Larry's family despised me. Larry and I didn't meet until after we both graduated from college. Before he introduced me to his parents, he made sure we both had secure employment. I did my best to make a good impression because Larry had warned me that his family might be judgmental about the individuals their children dated. Meeting them for the first time made me really anxious. By that point, Larry and I had been in a committed relationship for close to 6 years. His parents may have some issues with this because they didn't know me when I was just his girlfriend. The day before our meeting with Larry's parents is something I'll never forget. "They're going to despise me, Larry," I muttered under my breath, suffering from anxiety. A promise from Larry was that they wouldn't. He told me, "Don't you think they'll be shocked to find out we're engaged?" "Excuse me?" I inquired. "Well, yeah, but I don't think it will be that big of a deal," responded the man. "Are you fooling me? You were concerned about introducing me to them due to your knowledge of their critical nature. Now you believe that informing them that I am your fiancé will not exacerbate the situation." With some skepticism, I inquired, "I mean, come on, does it even matter if they do pass judgment?" "I don't think it matters to you, but maybe it does to me. In their presence, you appear to be extremely cautious at all times," Larry remarked. "I promise it won't change anything for me, Ella," said the man. "Sure, whatever you think. Perhaps we shouldn't announce our engagement too soon, though. I proposed waiting a month or 2. If that makes you feel better, I'm okay with it," he added. "Either way is fine with me. For the time being, let's not tell anyone, just in case." Aspired for their approval, I declared, "You shouldn't be concerned." While firmly grasping my hand, he assured me, "I will always be by your side." I responded, "Thanks, Larry." I was terrified that his parents would reject me whenever I proposed that he tell them about me. Then I began to grasp the rationale behind it. Larry grew up in a rich household that enjoyed the finer things in life. For the same reason, they expected their children to date similarly wealthy people or those with even more money. Their expectations were too high for me to meet. I had kept my past from Larry at the time since I didn't consider it important. I figured it was best not to bring up my father's identity after I understood why he was scared to introduce me. I hoped they would appreciate me for my character and not my wealth. Little did I know that they would reject me if I tried to be myself around them. We went to a nice restaurant to meet Larry's parents. Upon entering, Larry firmly grasped my hand. To keep things under wraps, I sported my engagement band as a necklace rather than a finger jewel. It was important to me that no one should know that I was carrying the ring. We were seated at a table where Larry's parents appeared visibly distressed, since they were extremely punctual, and we were 5 minutes late. Larry had forewarned me about this. It seemed like we were in for a rough start from the get-go. His parents glanced at me briefly before frowning in what seemed like contempt. While they were chatting with Larry, they paid me no mind. Sitting there, I felt very insignificant and unnoticed. I felt compelled to flee as their indifference intensified. I remained silent until Larry made an effort to draw me out. You can't treat me like way, Mom and Dad." As an icebreaker, Larry introduced Ella as his great girlfriend. "Hello there, it's a delight to meet you both," I remarked courteously. "Hi, I wish I could say the same," Larry's mom said with a chilly tone. "Mom, what?" Curious, Larry inquired. "I'm simply being honest," she stated with conviction. Uncle Larry then raised his voice. "So, Ella, I heard you and Larry met in college, right?" said he. "Indeed, it was. I mentioned that we had some classes together. How did you get into that university anyway?" "As far as I'm aware, it's quite pricey and not exactly easy to get into," he remarked, audibly suspicious. "Mom, I think that's enough," Larry cut in. "Larry, when you talk to your dad, don't use that language. It's a valid question," his mom stated with conviction. "Ella, please answer him." "A full scholarship was mine," I said. "I'm very grateful because I got to learn a lot, and of course I met Larry, which has been one of the best things that happened to me." "Undoubtedly, it is among the most beneficial events in your life. You require the kind of wealth that he possesses," his mother remarked angrily. "At least you have some brains because you're not that good-looking." "I'm satisfied. We are departing. Grab my hand, Ella," Larry urged. I was shocked by his parents' treatment of me as we walked out. People could be so blatantly nasty to me. It baffles me. I couldn't even respond. I was taken aback. There was total silence on the way home in the car. Larry was irate, and I did nothing but look at the window, unable to comprehend what had transpired. Larry was careful to check in with me when we returned home to see if I was all right, but I was at a loss for words. I had put forth the effort to sit correctly and dress appropriately. In an effort to put a good impression, I didn't order anything fancy. However, Amy and Adam seemed to have formed an opinion about me before I even spoke a word. After that, Larry stopped communicating with his parents. They sent him a text message accusing us of being rude for leaving the table during lunch. A month later, Larry finally responded by informing them of our engagement. Despite their displeasure, Larry threatened to cut off communication with them if they spoke ill of me. On the condition that they had final say, they promised to foot the bill for our nuptials. Obviously, Larry and I were not fond of that concept, so we decided to elope instead. Even though they were in Europe, my parents were aware of our choice. They were overjoyed to hear my good news and even sent a gift for Larry and me. Even though Larry was taken aback by the extremely costly artwork they provided us, I calmly explained that they could afford it. Therefore, it wasn't a major concern. At a party that Amy and Adam gave after our wedding, we ran into each other again. At their anniversary party, they extended an invitation to us. Although I was aware that they disliked me, I must admit that I was glad they welcomed me nevertheless. Unfortunately, no one paid any attention to me until we arrived. Just picture yourself ignored by 40 people if you think being ignored by 3 is horrible. There was no comparison. No one spoke to me all night long. Even though I remained near Larry, they would give me the silent treatment, walk away, or carry on chatting with Larry as if I hadn't said a word if I attempted to strike up a discussion with them. The night came to a close with me in tears. The way everyone treated me made me feel ashamed and repulsed. The partygoers requested speeches from Amy and Adam as the celebration drew to a close. I remained to listen despite my exhaustion and want to depart. Almost everyone in the room was thanked for being a part of their lives as they started their speech. That was the opening salvo, and they continued to hit me with more throughout the speech. At a certain point, I lost it because the guests were laughing along with them. I got up and walked out of the room arranged for a ride home. Until Larry returned, I sobbed the entire way home. He appeared distressed and furious as he entered. "Why did you leave in such a manner? Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for me?" he asked. "Oh, really? How? Could you please clarify what you mean?" Perplexed, I inquired. "Ella, Stop acting foolish. A number of the guests felt sorry for me since I was with you, but my parents scolded me," he added angrily. "Are you fooling me? What about the humiliation I felt?" My response was tinged with pain. "You could have tolerated that for a single night, Ella? I mean, come on, it was my parents' anniversary," he expounded. "Nobody paid any attention to me, and even your parents made fun of me throughout their speech. How can you think I can handle that?" I declared. "I don't necessarily agree with them, but you could have handled it better. If Larry had waited, he would have spoken with them later. How would I have benefited from that? I dislike being subjected to circumstances that merely embarrass me. The whole group was making fun of me. It's easy for you to claim it's no big problem because you've never had to feel that way." I added, "My parents are counting on you to apologize, and I would like one as well," he stated with conviction. "I'm not doing that unless they apologize to me first," I informed them. "It is unclear to me why an apology is necessary. I've always been your champion. What makes this situation any different?" Inquiring, he spoke up. "It's different because this time they embarrassed me, your wife, in front of everyone." "Perhaps my parents were correct about you," he remarked with a chill. "Perhaps your parents were also correct about me," I said. After that, Larry retired to the guest room for the night. I failed to grasp the rationale behind his abrupt transformation. Even when his parents shouted horrible things, Larry was the one who defended me. He clearly didn't care that I walked out. It would have told him how hurt I was. Larry avoided me for the following 7 days. Not only that, but his folks texted me terrible things, accusing me of being ungrateful and embarrassing. Larry repeatedly ignored my attempts to communicate with him. In spite of how embarrassing it was, I ultimately chose to apologize to him and his parents. I was prepared to do it because my love for Larry prevented me from wanting this to be our final goodbye. Following that, my situation deteriorated more. Upon retiring, Larry's parents began to hold weekly family dinners. I was invited the first time they hosted one, and Larry was always the one to invite me. Tensions rose in the room the moment I entered their home. Amy didn't see me immediately since she was getting ready, but the brothers of Adam and Larry sent me uncomfortable looks. While Larry was chatting with his family, no one came over to say anything, and I was left to my own devices. Amy came rushing over to me, visibly enraged, as soon as she saw me when she eventually made it downstairs. She became angry and snapped, asking, "What are you doing here?" "Excuse me." Shocked, I exclaimed, "Sorry, but I won't pardon you." "Why are you in my house?" she asked with an air of ultimatum. "Your dinner invitation was extended to us," I said. "No, that's incorrect. Larry was extended an invitation by myself. A family supper," she remarked angrily. "I'm Larry's wife, so I'm part of the family, aren't I?" Attempting to maintain composure, I inquired. "In no world." She spoke with an air of contempt, opining that an orphan like you had no place in this household. "Oh, really? How? You can't possibly consider that an excuse to exclude me," I exclaimed, my voice filled with disbelief. "When our children marry, we look into their backgrounds. Compared to my son, you are light years ahead. I will never accept you here," she remarked with an air of harshness. I responded, "You can't just judge me based on that," my voice tinged with hurt. "You're fat and unattractive." She claimed you would never be accepted by our select group. "What gives? Are you acting so naively? Is it true that you're so concerned that my presence here would damage your reputation? The fact that I bring joy to your son is important to you, isn't it?" As I tried to control my feelings, I asked, "If happiness made money, everyone would be rich." She pointed out, "That's exactly why you'll never fit in with us." On the other hand, I value people for who they truly are, so maybe I will never be as superficial as you are. You failed miserably in your attempt to know me prior to passing judgment on me, I told you. "Ella, that's sufficient." Larry said, taking out a sum of money. "Here, use this cash to hail a cab." "Leave," he yelled, forcefully placing the cash in my hands. I watched in disbelief as he returned his attention to his mother. Evidently pleased, she gave me a knowing grin. I turned and walked out, tears streaming down my face. The whole way home on the elevator, I sobbed. Why Larry had transformed into someone else was a mystery to me. After what transpired at the party, was this his attempt to appease his parents? For some reason, I was very wounded and furious. Instead of protecting me like he usually has, Larry was fine with his parents taking advantage of my history. What had gone wrong between us? I wanted to yell and scream at him, but I restrained myself because I knew it would make matters worse and confirm their accusations against me. So I went away perplexed. I felt quite justified in saying what I did, even though I was aware that it was forceful. I maintained my composure because I was only defending myself. Just as soon as Larry returned home, he resumed his policy of ignoring me. My spirit was crushed, and I was completely isolated. I couldn't bring myself to apologize again, even though I knew he was expecting it. Just like before, Amy had utterly humiliated me, and Larry was fuming with rage because of it. He seemed like the one who should have apologized. Larry and I were silent for the subsequent 3 weeks. I had a hard time adjusting to the quiet at first, but eventually I did. Larry continued to go out to dine with his family every week while I remained at home. To be honest, I was perfectly content to be alone. On one of those evenings, my parents video called me. "Hey, honey," my dad said, his face lighting up as he spoke. "Hello, darling. Are you okay?" Mom asked with a touch of concern in her voice. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, Mom." I hesitated, then admitted, "Things aren't exactly great." "Why? What's the matter, sweetie? If there's anything we can help with, just let us know," Dad said earnestly. I sighed. "I don't think it's something you guys can help with, but thank you." "Is Larry helping out at all?" Mom asked, a hint of skepticism in her tone. "That's the thing. He's actually part of the problem," I admitted, feeling my frustration resurface. "Oh, honey, what's going on?" Mom's voice softened. "Well, his family, they're wealthy and very elite," I explained. Dad grimaced slightly. "I can't stand people like that." "I get it. In their eyes, I'm just a poor girl who doesn't belong in their world. Every time I'm around them, they try to make me feel small," I confessed. "Oh, really? That's awful." Mom gasped. "Yeah, last time I was at their house, Larry's mom called me an orphan, like it was some kind of insult," I said, the hurt still fresh. "That woman, the audacity to call my daughter an orphan. I want to march over and give her a piece of my mind." Mom fumed. "Do they even know we exist? And what about Larry? What did he say?" I sighed. "I've kept you both out of it because I didn't want them to judge me based on your success. I wanted them to accept me for who I am, not where I come from. And Larry, he actually took their side. He thinks I was rude for standing up for myself." Dad's expression softened. "Sweetheart, are you sure this is the man you want to be with?" "I don't want things to be this way. I really love him, but we haven't even spoken in 3 weeks," I admitted. "All right, honey. If nothing else, your mom and I are here for you. Maybe we can even help in a small way," Dad offered, his tone gentle. Mom's face lit up mischievously. "I think we could help you get a little sweet revenge, too." "What?" I blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" "Next week, your dad and I are coming to visit," Mom said. "We'll spend some time with you and maybe skip the visit to Larry." My eyes widened with excitement. "Really? I can't wait to see you both in person." For the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. Dad then started explaining his plan to help me. "So, where do Larry's family usually have their gatherings?" he asked. "They alternate between their home and a few upscale restaurants." I informed him. Fortunately, the next family dinner was planned at a restaurant during my parents' visit. Since Larry's parents liked to send everything via email, I easily accessed the address and passed it along to my folks. At the same time, Mom's lawyer friend reached out to me, and we quietly began the divorce proceedings. When my parents arrived, they treated me to lunch, then sent me off to a spa day as a surprise, insisting I deserved it. Meanwhile, they prepared to make a surprise appearance at Larry's family dinner. As Larry and his family settled into the restaurant, my parents walked in. Dad later shared every detail with me, describing how Adam and Amy's whispers died down as they approached the table. "Hello," Dad greeted, a broad grin on his face. "Mr. Jeremy? What a surprise. Did someone invite you here?" Amy stammered, feigning innocence. "Well, I saw some familiar faces, so I thought I'd drop by," he said with a wink. Amy's composure faltered. Familiar faces? Who exactly? Dad glanced across the table at Larry. "Oh, I see Larry here." Larry, visibly uncomfortable, offered a polite smile. "Hello, sir. It's nice to meet you. Ella has spoken highly of you." "Speaking of my daughter, where is she?" Dad's eyebrow arched with a subtle hint of challenge. Amy forced a smile. "Your daughter? Well, she isn't here. But she should be, don't you think?" Adam stammered. "We didn't know your daughter existed, Mr. Jeremy." Dad's tone grew more assertive. "I do have a daughter. She's married to Larry." Amy looked bewildered. "What are you saying? Larry's wife, Ella, is your daughter?" "Yes," Dad replied firmly. "And for the record, she's not an orphan. We adopted her." "Excuse me, your dad?" His voice trembling, Adam questioned. "Indeed, I am. Plus, Ella isn't here tonight as far as I can tell. I can see why she was so down about the in-laws. I've heard about their troubles. The issue is obviously with you," my dad stated with conviction. "No, the problem is that she kept this huge secret from us." Amy was ecstatic. "If we had known, we would have treated her better." "She didn't want you to be nice to her just because of her background," said my father. "Oh, well," Amy muttered under her breath, her anxiety plainly visible. "Ella asked me to give something to Larry," my dad explained as he pulled out an envelope. Larry, trembling, opened it after receiving it from him. Divorce papers were it. Without saying a word after that, my dad stormed out of the restaurant. Things began to change after just a few phone conversations. Investors started fleeing Adam's company as soon as word got out through my dad's influential ties. A catastrophe was imminent for his company. As they stared down on me, it was weirdly satisfying to see their world fall apart. Then Larry's relatives began texting me in droves. Some of them were very insulting, calling me names and other derogatory terms. Everyone else was pleading with me to confront my dad and make him regret his actions, but by then it was too late. The fact that Larry kept quiet regarding the divorce is a blessing. The paperwork was signed by him without any problem. That was it. My family and I went on an extended vacation once everything calmed down. It served my purpose perfectly. Lounging around and enjoying my folks' company was the most enjoyable experience of my life. After everything that transpired, I started to get better one day. Even though it was heartbreaking, I learned from my loss of the person I believed to be my soulmate that I needed to fight for what I believed in, no matter how difficult it was. For all that they'd done, my parents have my eternal gratitude. I am filled